You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. I am Daniel.
I am Clint, and y'all, this is John. Welcome to the podcast, John. How you doing, man?
Hey, everybody. I'm good. I'm real good today.
Don't know John. John is one of our loyal followers over on Twitter feed.
If you don't know John, he tweets sports. That's all you need to know about John.
This is literally the introduction. This is all you need. What does John do?
That's what the man does.
I tweet sports.
Follow him over on Twitter. We're glad he's here. We got host this week, and it begins with John. He knows a girth of information of Georgia, loves the Bulldogs. Glad he's here. And he's a fan just like us, Daniel. I don't know if you understand the type
That's right.
we bring on.
That's the only type we're interested in.
Because we're not gurus or insiders any stretch of the imagination. We don't take ourselves too seriously nor each other. We like to have fun because, after all, it's sports, y'all. What are we doing if it's not fun? Well, don't answer that because it's also heartbreaking and misery. So, but
we might as well be Auburn fans. We might as well be Alabama fans if it wasn't going to be fun. You know,
it's fun.
Can't all be winners.
Can't all be winners. Glad you're here over on the podcast or on YouTube. Glad you're here. Not fans. No, I'm sorry. We are fans. No gurus or insiders by any stretch of the imagination. Daniel, how do they get in touch with us?
Yeah, lockedonbulldogs@gmail.com is the email address. @Dawgs Podcast is the Twitter. We know there's a lot of new listeners and subscribers out there, so feel free to reach out to us. We'd love your thoughts, your comments, your questions. If you've got segment ideas, if you got things that you want us to get to on the show, if you know, the mailbag is always open, so you can hit us up with those types of things on the email. Again, lockedonbulldogs@gmail.com. or the Twitter @Dawgs Podcast. Or you can just tweet all your questions to John @JohnTweetSports, and he will answer them all. Just save us, cut out the middleman, because that's probably what we're going to ask anyway. So, yeah, and just subscribe on all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find it. Leave us a rating or review, thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all the things that you can do, help out the podcast a tremendous amount. Thanks for doing that. So, John, we're back today. Clint and I were on here yesterday, kind of giving some thoughts on the offensive side of the ball as it relates to the Auburn game. And I made the observation that, in my opinion, the biggest difference between this team and the elite teams that Georgia's had in the past is not the quarterback or the defense or the running backs, but it's the receivers, and particularly this young trifecta of receivers, AD, Ladd, and Brock Bowers. So love to get your thoughts on just the receiver position in general, including tight end, and then the future of the receiver position in Athens, which looks to be very bright.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if we started this year and said we weren't going to have George Pickens, Kyrus Jackson was going to be banged up, Jermaine Burton was not going to be able to go a couple games, Dominic Blaylock wasn't going to be back.
Yep.
I mean, Darnell Washington was going to miss 4 or 5 games. How would you guys have felt about the receiver position?
Or just go back and listen. It's actually documented. It is actually documented how we would have felt.
Heard you. Yeah, I have heard you talk about it actually. No, I mean, these guys, I think there's two things with the receiver position. Number one, it is a selfless group of people. You have, Kirby has talked about it. I think other people talked about it. That room, they will catch the ball, they will block, they will stand on the sidelines and cheer for the other guy. It is certainly a selfless group. That's what stands out to me. I watched the game, the Auburn game over the weekend, and I just saw especially that last drive. So if you go and you look at that last touchdown drive for Zeus, where Georgia goes down the field, takes off 6 minutes of clock, and just kind of, somebody referred to this on one of the forums that I'm on as the Kirby Death March, where it's just lining up and coming at you, and there's nothing you can do about it. What stood out to me was Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers were blocking their tail off. These guys, they're a true freshman or redshirt freshman. Lad McConkey, his story has been chronicled. No other Power 5 offers, and these guys are out there blocking some dudes on Auburn's side. I mean, these weren't small guys that these guys were absolutely mauling.
No,
And
the first drive on that screen that we got shut down, Brock missed his block in totality. It was an awful block. It was. But then after that, it was like either some coach got in his ear or he said, from here on out, no one gets past me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's those moments in the game where the defense knows what you're going to do, and you have these receivers on the side of the ball that can still beat them. So whether that's running the route and getting a first down, or whether that's blocking and kind of, imposing your will, that's what stands out to me with these young guys. The future of Georgia's offense, obviously they have a lot to learn. I mean, you can go back and you can dissect, route, you can dissect some of the technique that they had, you can dissect some of the blocking, but the effort from these guys, and just when you look at that list yesterday and you see Georgia beat Auburn by 24, and you had Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington were the number 1, 2, and 3 receivers. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I don't know how you don't get excited about that.
Yeah, and then you sprinkle in a little Darnell Washington coming back out there, just snagging balls and running over. And that one-handed almost catch is the best almost catch I've ever seen in my entire life. Best thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Also, McCreary, I think McCreary was the DB on that play. Like, the guy's like 6'1", and he looked like a freaking puppet. Like it was like one of those puppets. I don't know what you call them, but where the guys do the thing.
The mannequins.
Darnell, exactly. It looked like they had one of those on his hand. That guy looked very tiny compared to that large human.
It's beautiful. Well, fellas, let's shift to the defensive side of the ball, because I mean, I feel like every week we get on the podcast trying to, and it's easy to talk about the offense. I mean, it's easy to gush about JT in the games he's played. Stetson played an amazing game. The receivers, Zamir White has been every bit of the 5-star that we hoped he would be this season, and the offensive line's played great. But we hadn't even talked about freaking Broderick Jones on the pod yet this week. But Broderick Jones, welcome to the starting lineup forever. You're here.
Please,
that's it.
Please. Todd, I love you, bro. I keep him at left tackle. Move Jamari inside, and let's roll.
Yeah, that's his spot. But let's talk about the defensive side of the ball, because another dominant performance. They got in the end zone, and Auburn fans will be celebrating that for generations to come. So congratulations to you. You scored a touchdown against.
They'll tell their grandkids that they scored a touchdown on this Georgia defense.
I think they rolled Toomer's corner after the game. Got a touchdown. Just get that toilet paper out. Get it out. Start flinging it. Well, look, John, we've been talking about this defense all season. You've now watched 6 weeks of football. What stands out about the most dominant single unit in college football history?
I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because I keep waiting. It's like we've been Georgia fans. I've been Georgia fan my whole life, right? Y'all have too.
Yeah.
You keep waiting, right? You keep waiting, like somebody's gonna figure it out. Somebody's gonna find a wrinkle. Somebody's gonna and I don't know that I don't know that you can. You're halfway through the season. It's not like they obviously Georgia's had a talent advantage most of the games this year, but it's not like you saw what Arkansas did with Ole Miss. I mean, they put up 51 points and 600 yards of offense. And Georgia held that Arkansas offense to 165 yards. I mean, you look at that like so what stands out to me, I think is just it's all the things that everybody talks about, but the depth, I think, is something that is just different. When you can, I think Georgia yesterday or Saturday played 28 guys on defense, and like 20 of those played 6 or more snaps. So when you're rotating guys in, when you have, Chris Smith got hurt and walk-on Dan Jackson comes in and leads the team in tackles. I mean, it's just that it is. It's just the depth, I think, for me. This, everybody's talked about that, but I went and did some research on on this.
Oh.
And so since 2001, only 3 teams have allowed less than 10 points per game for an entire season.
I love this. I love this
do you wanna
already.
guess- Do you want to guess what
I'm
those 3
having
teams
so
are?
much fun. I'm having so much fun.
All right. So 2001 Miami, that defense allowed 9.8 points per game.
Sure.
2008 USC allowed 9 points per game. And 2011 Alabama allowed 8.2 points per game.
Those teams any good?
Well,
Were those
two of them won the national championship.
Mhm.
One of them should have been in the national championship. I will argue this. 2008 USC, you had three 1-loss teams. You had Florida, Oklahoma, and USC. And I think, at that time, the brand of Oklahoma, whatever, we can talk about that. But I think USC should have been in that game over Oklahoma personally. But those 3 teams are the only 3 teams in 20 years that have held for an entire season have held opponents to under 10 points per game. Georgia is currently holding opponents to 5.5 points per game. And that also includes the pick 6 that wasn't even on the defense. But you got to go back, you can, it's scored. So when you look at
opponents' points. Yeah.
Yep. So when you look at that, guys, and you say, all right, through 6 games, how did those other 3 teams do? Because, because that's where we are.
Yep.
So I went back
next level. We're going next gen stats.
2001 Miami through 6 games, whereas allowing 10.8 points per game. 2008 USC through 6 games was allowing 7.8 points per game. 2011 Alabama was allowing 7 points per game. Georgia, 5.5. The average margin of victory through 6 games. Okay. 2001 Miami was 34. 2008 USC, 33.7. 2011 Alabama, 30.7. 2021 Georgia,
a lot.
34.3. So allowing less points per game and more margin of victory than what's arguably the best 3 defenses in the last 20 years are your 2021 Georgia Bulldogs. So I don't know what it's like. What
more
say?
needs to be said?
Yeah, people can say, well, you haven't played anybody, and people will
they will say that.
Yep. Oh, they will. They have. They already are. People will say, well, yeah, it's a down season for certain teams. It's all these things. Mm-hmm. You look and I don't know, other than going back and saying, well, you tell me the 3 best defenses, or even 2. Let's just say 2001 Miami, 2011 Alabama. You tell me the most elite defenses in the last 20 years, and Georgia is beating them in virtually all of the meaningful stats.
Every category.
And when I look at that, I just think like this is probably the best defense that college football has ever seen, at least through 6 games. In 20 years, the game has changed a lot. So let's just talk about like this century. Right?
I was just going to say 2001 and 2000. Those didn't have what we have for offensive now.
It's not the same game.
No.
Yeah.
No.
What I tell you all about the spreadsheets? What did I tell you all about the man coming with the spreadsheets?
We told our listeners yesterday.
I'm just saying.
I'll
tell you I'll tell you the other thing with margin of victory. Georgia has beaten the spread by 14.7 points. Vegas can't make a number that's for this defense.
That's why they're putting out numbers like 24 against the 11th ranked team in the country.
Daniel,
that's
said
why
24, and you're like, oh, that's far too many points. Did you see what the man said? We're beating teams at average. It's not enough. 24 and a half is not enough points for what we do on a week in and week out basis. That's
beautiful. All right, we're gonna play a little game. I got a little impromptu game I've just made up in my head that we're gonna play with John.
Out the window.
Pre-production out the window, throw it all away because this little stats that he just rattled off intrigued me. All right, we're gonna do that right after we come back. First, Clint's gonna tell you about this.
Prize Picks. If you haven't heard about it, you need to get over there right now. PrizePicks.com, your daily fantasy for college football. It offers more college football props than anyone in the world. Prize Picks offers props that you can think of on yards, touchdowns, even interceptions, throws. All of our users right now can get over there right now to prizepicks.com, put in promo code locked on, and get 100% up to $100 initial deposit match right now. Be sure to use the promo code locked on. You can pick 2 to 5 players over under their projections. Prize Picks allowed mixed sports entries. It's an award-winning app, both on the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Promo code Locked On in the promo code section on prizepicks.com or in the app. Download it today.
Also, want to tell you about Rock Auto. It's the place to go to buy all the parts that your car needs on the internet, whether it's interior, exterior, cosmetic, or mechanical. RockAuto.com has every part that your car will ever need. Why would you go to an auto parts store that has one type of some of the parts that your car might need when you could go directly to that warehouse that the auto parts store is ordering their parts from and order from RockAuto.com and get the guaranteed right part at the guaranteed lowest price. If you go to rockauto.com right now, in the How'd You Hear About It section, type Locked On and get the best part for your car at a reliably low price. That is rockauto.com. Type in Locked On in the How'd You Hear About It section.
I like games, Daniel. So what game do you have for us?
All right, so we're 6 games in to a 12-game regular season slate for the Georgia Bulldogs. And we're just going with this magic number of 10 points per game. That's kind of what you set at holding opponents to an average of 10 points per game. And so let's just look at the rest of the regular season, fellas. And I will ask each of you, who is the most likely team to score more than 10 points against this Georgia Bulldog defense in the 6 remaining games on the schedule? You must defend your answer.
John, you have the floor, sir.
Oh, man, me first. Gosh. Well, we know Florida's running the triple option, so it's not going to be Florida.
Spoiler alert, it ain't Florida.
Again,
is.
Give me the line to that game right now and watch me spend so much money on it.
Absolutely. I think that game is just going to be a massacre, but it's. I personally do not think that that any team is going to score more than 10 points on Georgia the rest of the way. Like, I look at it and I just don't see it. And I genuinely I've looked through this and I'm like, you tell me, through 6 games this year, I haven't seen anyone expose anything that could put 10 points up on Georgia. I just don't. And so,
Daniel, I don't like this because I hate this school.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But November 13th against Tennessee, I think out of everybody, they got the best shot. They got an offense rolling.
Yeah.
They can play. They can take shots on the deep ball. And if we saw it, look, Keely Ringo was in perfect coverage on that catch by D-Rob on the sideline. Y'all, like, there was nothing he could have done except maybe turn his head a nanosecond earlier, maybe get a hand up. That ball was, I don't know how, the laws of gravity stopped existing for a moment. So you give me Tennessee because I think they have high flying. I think they can take deep shots down the field. And if there's one little like Death Star Hobbit hole little weakness in our defense, it's there. So I think Tennessee can score maybe 13 points on us.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the only team to do it so far, South Carolina, and how they do it. They did it by a speedy wide receiver taking deep shots down the field. I mean, that's the way that you've done it in the past. I get that the secondary is not the same as it was when we played South Carolina, but to me, it's the only recipe you got.
Isn't
it?
I mean, it is. That's fair. I just think that's also all Tennessee has. And so if you put Kirby and Dan Lanning in a room with Muschamp and Jamil Adai and those guys, and
it's kind of like
I
this
just
week.
think,
like Kentucky. If you stop Kentucky's run with with Rodriguez, like great, you stopped him there. And if you put the ball in Will Levitt's hand and he's got to sling it all over the park, like no, you don't got it. Yeah. And Tennessee just defaults in that way. So you're right about that. But man, that's a fascinating thing. As you look down the schedule, like Georgia Tech is negative an option for G Tech. Like, is that a possibility?
Come on now. You don't think Geoff Collins is going to draw something up? He's not going to scheme something up.
I would almost say Georgia Tech because I think Kirby will just have fans coming out of the stands to suit up for that one.
Yeah,
we got to rest.
Well,
we got to rest, guys. Like anybody want to
you
get a
know
rest?
that midway through the second quarter. Listen, if you're excited about the Brock Vandegrift era, tune in on Thanksgiving weekend because you're going to see a lot of them against Georgia Tech. But that kid's going to get a lot of playing time. All right, John, as we wrap up conversation about the defense, we're going to transition to Kentucky here in a minute. But looking back to the Auburn game and just your general thoughts about this defense and as a whole, who is the most surprising player on Georgia's defense this year to you? Mm-hmm. In other words, who has outperformed your personal expectations that you had for him the most?
Yeah, I was personally worried about Latavius Brenny. I think that position, if you look at in the offseason, where the concern was, it was in the secondary. And then you look at, kind of that the guys in that secondary. And I think that particular star position is just so critical to this defense, when Georgia, when they're running their mint front and all those things, that I was concerned about that position. And then when Tyke Smith came in, and I think there was like this little bit of like elation. Hey, we've plugged this hole that everyone is kind of worried about. Exactly. And then he got hurt, and then you think like, oh, okay, what's going to happen? And man, I just think Latavius Brenny has just balled out, like to the point where Tyke has missed enough reps now that he played 7 snaps against Auburn. He played his first Tyke Smith played his first snaps in position this year. He played 8 snaps before the week before against Arkansas, but it was all on punt return coverage. So he actually played the position, for the first time this year. But Latavius Brenny for me has been a surprise. I just think he's a guy that he's been physical. He's been put in positions where he's had to make plays, and he's made them. We saw in person the Clemson game where he was making some really key plays in that game, and I think he's just built off of it from there.
Great answer. My goodness. Yes.
Does that mean though, John, you were ready for the 41 show that has been taking place on this Georgia defense this year? Because we were not ready for the absolute freak fest that 41 has become.
Was certainly not ready for Channing Tindall, right? And I think the difference for me, I think if you look at that linebacker group, Channing has been a complete surprise, and I am pumped to see that guy ball out. You talk about being fast and physical, especially the fast part. I mean, completely has balled out. But that linebacker crew, has been. It's so good that you kind of miss that when you think about who are the people that really stand out. It's like Brenny feels like he's been put kind of on an island over there, and it's like, hey, you're make or break, dude. And then you get Channing, and he gets thrown in there and he makes plays. And you're right. If I had to pick to me they're kind of 1A, 1B with Brenny first. Yeah.
All right, we got more to talk about. We're going to shift and turn the page to Kentucky, which we normally don't do till Wednesday, but want to give John a fair shake. So all you Kentucky fans watching and listening right now, get excited. John Tweet Sports on Twitter. You can direct all of your comments towards him. As we do that, I want to tell you about BetOnline.ag. We mentioned how Georgia is radically covering every spread that's put in front of them this year. If you want to place a wager, as Clint and I have, and make a lucrative amount of money, as Clint and I have, betting on Georgia football, as Clint and I have, then you can go to BetOnline.ag. Your online sportsbook experts, they are the place that we go to place all of our online wagers for the college football season. Baseball playoffs are here. NBA season is starting up. The NFL is in full swing. College football is in full swing. College basketball, Clint. John, you a big college basketball fan, John?
I
love college basketball.
I love college basketball. And listen, I listened to Friday's episode and heard Clint giving you a little bit of grief over your basketball fandom.
College basketball season, John. You're my new co-host. We're coming on. We're doing this thing right. We're doing it. We're doing it for real.
Get me off this flipping place when that comes. My goodness.
Look, you go to BetOnline.ag. Go to betonline.ag, place all of your wagers on all of your sports. Enter the promo code Locked On, and you get a 50% bonus on your initial deposit. That's free money with which to bet on college football, Major League Baseball, NBA, or NFL, or whatever you want. Go to betonline.ag, enter the promo code Locked On at betonline.ag.
Have our listeners and YouTubers ever watched a man be fired in real time like that? I just got
it's rarely been done, but I feel great about it, to be honest. I didn't say you were fired. You're just on a sabbatical.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm on an Urban Meyer. I have a health concern. Is that what
you just want to spend more time with your family? That's what it was.
Please don't go on an Urban Meyer on an urban sabbatical.
You need to. Yeah. Listen, I know your family, Clint, and I will not allow you to go on an Urban Meyer type sabbatical. Okay, you're not getting a yacht. You're not going to go anywhere near Brady Quinn or the Fox Big Nooner set at all,
or any Applebee's. No.
You're not going to go to the upstairs weird bar somewhere in Ohio. That's love
to see it. Hey, we'll let you know about.
I think Urban owned the bar too, which is like anyway.
He does.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
We'll let you know about SweatBlock. SweatBlock is what I need right now because I just got fired live on the podcast. It is doctor created, doctor recommended. It works up for 7 days of use. Dry shirt guarantee. If SweatBlock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. Featured and tested on Rachel Ray show by firefighters, which they know something about temperatures. Bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years. Over 13,000 reviews. Currently number 1 in Amazon antiperspirant category. Manufactured right here in the U.S. of A. Wear it when you want, your little secret of confidence. And right now, all of our listeners can go over to sweatblock.com, get 20% off their entire order by putting the promo code Locked On. That's 20% off your entire order at sweatblock.com. Use promo code Locked On or at Amazon and CVS. All right, Daniel, looking ahead to Kentucky. This is a game that I have said I was nervous about the entire season. I looked at this. I circled this before we began. I thought that coaching staff knows what they're doing. They have built a culture over there. They are undefeated in SEC. They are ranked high. And all of a sudden, here we are. The week is up before us. So
we're here.
John, I guess my first question to you is this. Did you have the same trepidation looking ahead to Kentucky as I did? Did you circle this at all as a potential threat game to you?
I don't know that I circled as a threat game. I will tell you this. I tweeted my SEC predictions, my order of finish for the year before the season started, and I had Kentucky second in the East over Florida. So when you look down that list, right, I think you look at what Mark Stoops is building. You finally had a quarterback coming in. You know that they're going to be physical and they can play defense under Stoops. I think I had it circled as Georgia's probably kind of best punch they were going to take in the East. I didn't expect them to be 6-0. I didn't expect them to be pushing the top 10. And so, this season has been wild, but Kentucky was circled for sure.
I didn't expect him to be 6-0, but to be honest, I expected him to be 5-1. I expected him to lose to LSU last week. When I looked preseason at Kentucky's schedule, I think we all three had them beating Florida at home. If you got to have them finishing second in the East, then all of us would have predicted that they would have beat Florida at home. I expected LSU to be a lot better because I didn't know that Coach O was just going to go full Gene Chizik on his job at this point. But he has, and so LSU is a toilet program, and so Kentucky goes in there and scores 100 points against LSU and just runs them out of the checkout line. So now they're not only coming in 6-0, but this program's coming in hot. Like they feel the Kentucky feels good about their offense. They feel like they finally have a quarterback who can throw the ball, which, to be fair, they haven't had a quarterback who could throw the ball in a decade. And like you said, physical defense as always, physical run game as always. If Bro could hold on to the football, their run game would be incredible. And so to me, John, it's Kentucky fans have plenty of reason for optimism, and yet you don't seem nervous. I don't seem nervous. Clint's now kicked back, just enjoying himself a beverage, so he clearly doesn't seem nervous. So, John, why are we not nervous about Kentucky at this point?
Well, I think this segment ties well together because we started with the Georgia defense this episode, and now we're going to talk about them again, right? Like Kentucky.
John, I don't know if you know this, but we have an executive producer who is he's
so
exceptional
good
at his job.
He
is
M-dubs.
exceptional at his job.
Yeah. I've heard of M-dubs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good.
Yeah. What a guy.
It keeps things together for sure. It's obvious. Well, listen, so for me, I don't know how Kentucky is going to score. So people will point to last week and say, well, look what they did, 40-something points and 470-something yards of offense. LSU has quit. Like that 100%. That team, after what they went through at home against Auburn, what they went through with their coach threatening to throw people in the swamp, like they've called it a day. That will be very different.
Somebody was reporting that Derek Stingley Jr. still not recovered from his whatever injury and was not going to play against Kentucky. And I wanted to just like write in or call in and say, listen, spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with the injury. Derek Stingley Jr. is not playing another down for LSU in his entire life. Like that's it. That ship has sailed. This team is done.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Kentucky fans. I know your team gave you a great game at Kroger Field last week, but coming into Sanford Stadium, 3:30 kickoff, game day will be in Athens again. The crowd will be juiced. I don't see how Kentucky is going to score. They're number 9 in the SEC in scoring offense. They're number 10 in the SEC in total offense and yards per game. I just don't see how. For me, the reason I don't have trepidation is like, who is going to score for Kentucky? No one.
Yep.
You always have Chris Rodriguez is. You mentioned it earlier. I think he's had some ball control issues, but the guy is a tough runner. But you're not going to run on this Georgia defense, and when you're not going to do it. When you take that away and you look at kind of the rest of what Kentucky brings to the table, I just don't see how they're going to score. Now, their fans have already been saying, they're going to hammer the points on the 22 point line on the Kentucky side, and for me, it's just so weird. Yeah, it's a weird thing. They're talking about covering the spread and all of these things.
We probably won't get beat by more than 3 touchdowns.
I mean, that's where they are, right? The good
and to be honest, that's where Auburn fans were last week. That's where Arkansas was the week before. Exactly, because most people, John, I've learned, have eyes. Most people are able to see things. And if you're a Kentucky fan, surely you're able to see things, and that's
and I think that's what I would say to Kentucky. Take out the LSU game because LSU has quit, and do you really think that your team is going to come into Athens on the road in front of this home crowd, in front of that defense, and score? So I don't have trepidation there. I also think that this offense, the Georgia offense, it's finding its way. Whether it's whether JT is healthy or whether Stetson is out there, you have guys that can make plays, and we saw it against Auburn, where Auburn went for it on 4th down, didn't get it. Todd Monken turned around and called a kill shot. It was a 60-yard TD to Lab McConkey. Like, I think game over. And I think that Georgia, I just think Kentucky Kentucky has amazing farms and horses and horse races, but they do not have the horses for this game.
Look at this, man.
Great. It's the limestone that's in the soil that makes the water so that when the horses drink it, it strengthens their bones. I don't know if you fellas know that, but that's where the thoroughbreds come from. Same water that makes this glass taste better So some fine things coming out of Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Some absolutely fine things coming out of Kentucky. Not going to be a lot of points on Saturday.
No. And that's the silver lining, right? The silver lining for Kentucky fans is you get to go home to bourbon and horse racing, and you get to enjoy whatever is left to enjoy of the season.
And
but
another basketball season that will inevitably disappoint you because your expectations are ridiculous.
No, we're talking about Kentucky, Daniel. We're not talking about Georgia basketball right now.
Why would you take a shot at your own team on your own podcast? That's a weird. Speaking of weird flexes.
That's why you get fired on your own podcast.
Yeah, that's why you get fired on a podcast. Look, John, we could sit here all day and talk to you about Georgia football. I think the only sensible thing to do is we're gonna have you back on the podcast at some point, sometime soon. And so you can bookmark that. Follow this guy at John Tweets Sports on Twitter. I'm talking about real insight, like real spreadsheet nerd stuff. Insight. Like, I mean, he gets out his pocket protector and he comes out with some hard hitting facts. So get after him on Twitter. Follow the podcast, subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. And we will be back tomorrow. Clint, we got another guest tomorrow. I think we got another guest coming on. I think we got another guest coming on the pod tomorrow. All right, look, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Check back with us. Have a great rest of your week. Go Dawgs.